Okay, so my phone ran out of juice. So I'm going to piece these two videos together. So here's the deal. So with Pinyin, or with Chinese, it seems to be that Pinyin is what I reverse when I do this. But I'm very, very curious. I'm very, very curious about this because I wasn't sure, even though I know with numbers, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get away from all of this light that's really glary. So even though I know in numbers it definitely happens, I've seen the result of my numeric dyslexia, so despite being good with math, I've never gone into any fields dealing with money because I've always known that I could have some serious issues unknowingly with my numeric dyslexia. And I do have that other thing with the language, with the English language, and I just did not see this coming with Chinese because the characters are so different, and I wasn't sure if it was going to show up, and I wasn't sure how it was going to show up, and now repeatedly, not every time, because it doesn't even happen to me in English or in numbers every time. It's interesting, I don't consider numbers English. Well, because, okay, we use what? Arabic numbers and Latin letters, Latin alphabet? Anyway, there. So, I didn't know if it would come, and it came, and it's happening. It's happening in Pinyin. It'll be interesting when I get to a fluent state speaking-wise. Bad as my tones may be, eventually at some point I will be spouting out sentences that make sense. And when I start to reverse words by syllable, like I'm talking about doing, if I will catch myself, like I can catch myself in English sometimes when I'm saying it like that. Because I do say it like that sometimes in English as well. I'll say words reversed in a sentence and then catch myself and fix it. But generally speaking, I guess maybe I do it syllabilically. Is that a word? I think I do it by syllable sometimes in English, but most of the time I've noticed it's when I'm reading. I think I would dislike reading at this point, but I didn't even realize I was doing workarounds until I hit a skill within engineering that required me to really, really see why I was doing things wrong. So it wasn't until I got challenged to the point of breaking mentally and cognitively that I really had to address this issue. And anyway, so it's bled over into another language, and I'll follow it from here. But I'd be very curious to hear from you your experience with any sort of minor or major learning disability, or should we just say cognitive differences that have bled over into your second, third, or other languages that you knew you had in your first languages and wasn't sure if they would show up in your second language, or if you knew they were going to, and did they show up right away? Did it take a while? Did you have to get to a certain level for them to show up? I don't know, just curious. Very, very curious. Again, mine's really subtle, other than trying to go full-on engineering instead of the baby engineering degree that I hate to call it that, then the business engineering degree that I ended up graduating with. I just simply couldn't continue taking mechanical engineering classes because I couldn't put on paper what was in my brain. There was a lack of connection between the two, and after getting tested, it just proved that that was only going to get worse because my coursework and the skill I was trying to learn was going to be further from what I was able to physically do. That was a freaking hard moment because that is a really interesting subject, and I would have mentally and soul-wise loved to have been a mechanical engineer. But anyway, meh. You cannot control your physical limitations. And boy, is that something I keep learning over and over again. So I'd be curious to know how any sort of minor or major cognitive obstacle has affected your language learning. I don't know how much this is talked about in the language learning community because, again, most of the folks I'm seeing are talking about how well they're doing with learning languages and showing you how well they're doing with languages, and that shit is inspiring. But this stuff also exists. So I'd like to hear your comments and stories if you feel comfortable doing so. If you don't want to do it in the comment section or in any social media, PM me, email me. I'd like to share stories regardless of how public they are, because this is such a sticky wicket. I mean, learning another language in the way that I'm doing it, and possibly in the way you're doing it, is an extra thing that we're adding on to our lives. It's not something that's going to make or break my existence or my ability to survive or thrive in life. I think it'll add a lot of flavor and a lot of diversity and a lot of cultural insight as I get there, but it's not going to break me. It's not part of my financial survival in life. So I don't have to push forward in this, but I want to. Anyway, I look forward to your stories on or offline. 再见, or 见za. That joke was at my expense. There you go.